really consider doing more shorts. Okay. So everything, toe box is right here, already on. And could my... Thank you. Alrighty. Okay, welcome. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today, well, for one, good news is that I managed to get all my stickers ordered over the weekend, and one of them is already in shipment, but that's going to be the roll of stickers I ordered to help cover up my business cards. Aside from that, I've decided for this week I'm going to slow down on drawing for a little bit, and the main priority is going to turn into the amigurumi moving forward. And I can't find my drawing pen. Oh my, okay. If it's not one thing, it's another. Okay, no, that's a USB. It's gonna be hiding somewhere under my laptop. It's right here. Okay, I got my pen. Yeah, if it's not one thing, it's another with me. But just some little updates. Stickers are ordered, and so I'm going to be slowing down a little bit on the drawing front because admittedly I've been so focused in on the stickers that the past week or two, like, I've just been brain dead by the end of the evening. So we're going to do a little bit more chill drawing time. It's going to be less pressure now that I'm not kind of working on a deadline. But with that being said, I don't really have much of a plan for this evening. I do have a couple of more sticker ideas that I want to make, but I'm just gonna put anything relating to stickers on hold because I just need a break from designing stickers in general. Even though I say that, but I've also been drawing in my sketchbook, and I have quite a few more that I'd like to make, not for the market, but just in general to put in the shop eventually. But yeah, I'm just gonna take us a brief step back from the stickers, even though there's quite a few sketches in here that I'd like to work on. But I'm gonna put that on hold. So I'm also not gonna do any chibis. I do want to do something that's a little bit more, how do I say this? Like a more full, like, I haven't made a full illustration in quite a while, so I want to do something that like takes composition, anatomy into account. And so I'm just trying to rack my brain for some old illustration designs that I really wanted to do. For one, there was a fourth wing idea that I kind of wanted to do based around like a quote on family from the book, but I don't remember what page where I found that. All I know is that I think it's when Zayden and Violet are sitting on the rooftop and they're just talking, and something along the lines of like home or family is wherever you are. And it's going to be something along those lines. There's also a few old ideas that I had a long time ago. So for example, I low-key kind of want to do a redraw of the Trickster Atsumu because I feel like my anatomy has improved since that time a little bit. There is also continuing off on that series because when I thought of that AU, I was like very deep in my DBD phase. So it's still an AU that I think about every so often because I love Trickster Atsumu. And one of the ideas that I also had was eventually make Omi the Plague. And then the other one would have been the Legion for the Seijo 4. And I think I think my brain is kind of clinging to the idea of the Seijo 4. Also, the other drawings I have in my WIP bin are the lads pole dancing AU, but I don't know how much leeway I'll get with doing the boys like in just boxers on YouTube. So yeah, we're gonna do something that is a little bit more stream friendly until I figure out how much I can push that envelope. But yeah, I think we're just gonna go ahead and do. I think we're gonna do the. My brain's just latching onto the Legion idea, so I'm probably gonna start working on a few like maybe some rough thumbnails just to get started and get some compositions out of the way. So yeah, that's mechanical pencil. And one of the things that I was thinking, because I don't remember their names like off the top of my head, but the Legion is pretty much 4 different people in the game, so you can swap out between any 4 of them. So the main group for the Legion are comprised of 2 men and 2 women. And if I'm not mistaken, there is like a romantic element to it. And in my opinion, that would fit the Seijo 4 really well because, at least in my head, they kind of come as a polycule. And even if like they're not in a polycule, they're like one of them is dating the other. Like I ship the Seijo 4 in any combination you could possibly think of, plus Suga. And so I remember one of the poses that I really wanted to do with them was just have Matsune and Maki kind of just sitting on the floor, Matsune crossed legs, and then Maki just kind of just sitting in his lap. And then kind of a very similar story with Iwa. Maybe having Iwa, I don't know if I want Iwa to just like stand here and then have Oikawa draped over her shoulder. So it would be so pretty much I feel like my pen ran. Let me put that up because I think that's a little too thin for sketching. So, because one of the things that I was just thinking about is that I could have Iwa seated. I could have Iwa seated, like maybe on like some sort of cinder block or something, just have him seated. And then have Oikawa just hugging him from behind, draping himself over his shoulder, Matsune and Maki just chilling at his feet, and then Maki just like draped over Matsune's lap. The other thing too I also need to consider is the variations I'm going to do for their clothing, and also bringing their masks in. So it's also going to be one of the things that, because I want to make it clear that this is a Haikyuu AU or like a Haikyuu DBD AU, I want their faces to be showing behind the masks. And low-key, I really do want to do a redraw of the Atsumu as well. But I think one thing stays certain, so I'm not like, because in my head, I'm kind of firm on Maki needs to be seated in Matsune's lap. I think just to keep, because the thing is, I could do the same thing for Aikawa, but it'll be like a repeat and it's a reused element that I don't want to reuse so much. So then I could have Oikawa draped over Iwa's shoulder, have Maki just like chilling here, and then maybe even have Matsu's arm draped over Iwaizuni's lap, just to kind of like relax. Because it's one of those things it's one of those things like with this force dynamic specifically, like I want them to be very comfortable. Like they're all very intimate with each other. So I want a certain degree of intimacy with this one. So yeah, I think we're gonna Raug. Okay. I think yeah. Yeah, so I don't think if I have Iwa standing, like just kind of just posturing, and then having Oikawa just hug him from behind, and then Matsune and Maki just like sitting, chilling on his like near his feet, like it doesn't give much of that intimacy feeling I'm going for. The other option is having them all, but the thing is too is that I wish I remembered all their names. I remember one of them is Susie. It's like, and time to Google stuff. Not that Legion. Frank, Julie, Susie, and Joey. I don't know why I thought Joey was the main. It's been so long since I've done anything related to DBD. Like when I found IDV, that kind of just started taking over. Ooh, maybe I should do a skin draw. Okay. Okay, so because what I'm thinking is have Iwaizumi be the role of Frank, and then okay. I honestly forgot. Like I knew it was one of those Frank came into town. Actually, don't I actually forgot a good amount of their lore. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, because what I'm thinking is have Frank or Iwaizumi in Frank's role, Oikawa in Julie's role, and then Matsune as Joey, and then Maki as Susie. But yeah, I want there to be like a certain level of intimacy between them because it is the Sage 04 that I'm drawing as a Legion. So yeah, I think it'll make more sense if I either have them like Iwoizumi seated a little higher than Matsu, and then Matsun sitting on the floor, having Maki in Matsun's lap, and then Oikawa just draping himself over Izumi. That's one option. The other option is to kind of have them more on the same level with each other. But at the same time, I don't think having them on the same level as each other would really make much sense, especially since Frank tends to act as more of like a leader. And in a way, he did manipulate them into kind of just like following along with him. So I kind of want to keep that part, that essence. So it's one of those things that I want it to be intimate, but I also want to make it clear that Iwaizumi kind of has the rank given, even though given that Oikawa is the cap. So maybe I should swap Oikawa for Iwaizumi. Mm, decisions. Because one of the things that like I'm kind of scared of if I put them all on the same level, like I'll still have Maki in Matsun's lap. That's not going to change. Maki's going to have to be in Matsun's lap. Um, so just have Maki kind of just draped across all of them. And then maybe even have Iwo Izumi like more leaned into just like into Iwo Izumi's shoulder and just have like Oikawa. But then the thing is, this is going to become a problem because Maki is played out this way. If I set up Oikawa so that he's like kind of a very similar position where he's leaning back on Iwo Izumi with legs splayed out, that like design wise like feels imbalanced for me. I feel like again, I just feel like them being on equal footing doesn't feel quite right either. So The other, I think this would make more sense where somebody is like actually seated. So almost like a throne sort of thing where you have main leader and then I swear to God I had a composition for that for Chihiro, Kazumi, Kazuya, and Hikaru and Sora with Chihiro, who are all OCs from mine and my friend's Omegaverse. AU. I love that AU so much. Maybe maybe I should draw some OCs. I literally did say this stream, like no plans, just vibes. Literally no plans, just vibes. But I think we'll go with something along this line. It just makes more sense in my head. Okay. So not what I meant. And let me do a folder now that I'm here. And so okay, now the question is am I going to replace Iwaizumi with Oikawa and then have Oikawa, because Grand King, he is the captain of the Seijo Force, so role-wise, he would make more sense being Frank, but I just don't like... I'm thinking about it, and I'm more of an Iwa Oi girl, more so than an Oi Iwa girl. And it's like, the thing is, if I would have had Oikawa draping himself on Iwa Izumi, it would have been a much more like a hug from behind around his neck, and then him kind of just like lifting his mask off. And maybe even having Oikawa holding onto the mask. Like for me, for Iwa Oi, that makes sense. For Oi Iwa, the pose would need to be different because Iwa Izumi would not, in my personal opinion, hug Oikawa like that. It would be, he would drape himself over his shoulder, but it'll be more like maybe something a little bit more possessive for Iwa Izumi. So the other thing that I could do, actually, you know what? It might actually, I may not do this draping pose. It'll probably be more along the lines of like Iwa Izumi kind of just resting on Oikawa, but then it becomes a question of where is the rest of his body in relation to Oikawa, and how am I going to have him seated? Okay, so I think I am going to reverse the roles because role-wise, it would make... Okay, so in my opinion, in my head, ship-wise, Iwa Izumi seated and then Oikawa just draping himself over him sounds appealing. But role-wise, because Oikawa is the captain, it would make more sense to make him Frank and kind of have him sitting tall, proud, and... Sorry, I got distracted. I glanced over, saw my Toa figure, and I'm just like, God, you're so pretty. Anyway, no plans, just vibes. God, that Toa is so pretty. I love that Toa figure so much. It makes me so happy I was able to get my hands on him too. Anyway, back on topic. So yeah, I'm thinking swapping Oikawa for Frank would be the better idea. Have Iwa Izumi lean on him, even to the point that maybe like Iwa Izumi is chest height, having his arm draped over the chair. Oikawa just like crisscross, like legs crossed, seated confidently, and then you have maybe even Matsune draping himself over him, and then just Maki in his lap. There's a lot of heads going on here. There's like a lot of heads happening right now. Now, my next question is, how am I going to have them seated? Because their hideout in the game is supposed to be an abandoned cabin. Kind of thinking, what would it be for Oikawa? Because I'll be honest, I'm tired of drawing thrones. I don't want to draw another throne. I think maybe even just like a gym locker room would suffice. I think gym locker room will suffice. Not to mention, if I have it vertical, it doesn't make sense to make this a landscape. Do I have a brush that has lockers? Because I could have sworn I used like some sort of locker pen when I did. Or did I? No, those are buildings. I thought I had a brush for literal lockers. I could have sworn I had one. Okay, there we go. I did have one. So I did get this brush off of the CSP asset store, and it just makes my life easier. It just makes life easier. It's the same brush. The main reason I got this brush was because I was working on a present for Liza, and it just made sense. It made sense. I'll maybe even have it in the Seijo colors. So I'm just gonna have that in the background. I'll make a different layer for background. And usually I don't draw in the backgrounds before I work on anything else, but I just really wanted to work out the settings, not to mention I needed to work out the chair situation. It's gonna have to be a bench. Ooh, okay. I want to get a bench brush. I don't want to draw the bench. I don't want to draw the bench. But I have to draw the bench. I will draw the bench. And yeah, because I'm on the... I'll probably improve this later, but I do just want to have... Could I have just made a perspective ruler? Probably, but I like making my life difficult. Then I'm gonna have legs. I'm not, this isn't gonna be the final bench. I just want to draw something in here just to kind of act as a placeholder so I know where everything's at. And the heights of things make sense. So I have somewhere to place the boys. And you know what? We're gonna lower the opacity on this so that I can properly focus on drawing the boys. And I don't usually do this, but we'll try coloring on a colored background as well. Because usually when I do the sketches, I do it in white. Wondering if it'll be easier. Yeah. Ooh, the... Okay. Okay, yeah, that's better. Okay, so let's go ahead and... Did I do the stupid thing and put... Oh, yeah, I did do the stupid thing. Oopsies. Okay, we'll just re-add those levers. Okay, wait, hold on, hold up, hold up, hold up. Okay. So I will be remaking the sketch anyway, so that doesn't really matter. I need a trash can. No, not that trash can. Okay, that's usually not there, but that's worry for another day. Okay, so focus. Okay. So that's a locker. You don't longer need that. Okay, so one thing for sure, Oikawa is going to be seated, and the thing is now I need to figure out what I'm going to be doing with his hands, because in my head I was going to put him on a throne and he was going to have, I was about to ask if it was working on the wrong layer. So we're going to have Oikawa seated here, and then now to figure out what to do with his hands, they have knives, so I would personally maybe cleaning the blade, like fresh kill if they're cleaning the blade. I was thinking of making this like an Atsumu with just a plain background, but it doesn't make sense if I do that either. Ooh, okay. So one hand wrapped around Iwaizumi's waist. The thing is, I'm gonna have to work out the heights because I think I could always move down the chair. So okay. So height-wise, how would Iwaizumi fall? Because I want to say the chest. Because I don't want Iwaizumi in Oikawa's lap either. Okay, we'll figure out Matsune and Maki first. Because one of the things I'm thinking is Matsune could have an arm draped on the chair. And then, again, one arm wrapped. Like, one arm draped. Maybe even one hand on Oikawa's knee. And then have Maki. See, the thing is, if I put Maki's head over here, he's going to be the furthest one away from the rest of them. So he's going to feel like a little bit... He's going to feel a little bit... Maybe even move Matsune closer, I think. And then, because if I put Maki like right over here, he's going to feel... But then again, you do have like a straight line. I think I prefer something more going along the lines of... Yeah, because if I put Maki's head here too, it's just like a straight line downward, and that's kind of boring. Because one thing I could do is have Iwaizumi... The thing I could do is just have Maki's head resting on Oikawa's knee while still being seated with Matsune. And then Matsune moves closer. And then I don't have to worry about Oikawa's legs. If there's an element you don't want to worry about, you covered it up with other elements. Okay, so I think that's roughly where I want to take this. All right. Okay, so we're set on Oikawa. Maki, we're gonna have resting on his other knee, and then Machin will need to come closer and literally drape himself on Oikawa's thigh. Um, and then the one that we need to figure out is how we're gonna do Iwaizumi, because I think I am gonna have him drape, but the thing is, it also becomes an issue of height and where he's standing, because how he leans on Oikawa won't make sense if he's just standing straight. Iwaizumi is going to turn into a challenge. Unless, like, I have Iwaizumi resting his head on Oikawa and then have Iwaizumi holding on to his mask. And then maybe even just, like, the knife. Like, almost like a position with the knife over Oikawa's lips. That looks wrong. Well, my brain took a turn. Yeah, because Iwaizumi sitting on Oikawa's lap does not make sense to me. Because it's one of those things for me is that I prefer Iwa Oi over Oi Iwa, but I also don't mind Oi Iwa. It's not as much of my cup of tea, but if I read it in fic, it's not really going to bother me all too much. It's not my preferred dynamic. So I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with Iwaizumi in this position. Because for me in my head, like it was easier to have Oikawa draped over Iwaizumi. Because role wise, like if you want to take it literal, Oikawa makes sense as Frank because he's the captain of Seijo. In terms of like in my head DBD Au, I feel like Oikawa would be the person who would be like, no, I'm better than this town. I want to leave. And then Iwaizumi just randomly passing by and like Oikawa takes an interest in like that makes more sense dynamic wise in my head. But if you go like literal team positions, then Oikawa would make more sense as Frank. Because Oikawa, like personality wise, he's the one that always wants more. I feel like Iwa Izumi would be like a diamond in rubble. I know that's not the saying, but it's the thing my brain came up with. Because I already have Matsuen draped over Oikawa's thigh. Maki is already down here. And I don't want to have I I need another human being in this room just so that I can like test out the I need a significant other. Like I need a significant other. Like if anything, like not for any I just need somebody to help with references. Like that's all I need. Because Oikawa is taller than Oikawa. So it could always be like even Iwaizumi playing with his hair. Or I could still do the drape thing and even have Iwa Izumi like petting Maki. Because like I said, it's because it's Stage 04, I want them to have like some more of an intimate reaction, or like I want them to have more of an intimate dynamic in the composition. Okay, let me actually begin. Whoa, worry. So, okay, one thing for sure, Oikawa is dead. Okay, so if we're gonna move forward, like based off of positions, then we'll keep Oikawa in the center because, again, like literal positions, Oikawa makes sense as Frank. In terms of lore and story, I feel like Iwa Izumi would make a better Frank, and while Oikawa makes the better Julie. That's her name, right? I just feel like Oikawa makes a better Julie. But again, it's like, but Oikawa is also childish, but he is also their fearless captain. Because even in the manga or in Haikyuu, Oikawa follows Wolf. There's a reason Oikawa is the captain. And I actually want the mask to only obscure part of Oikawa's face. Might even, like, depending on which direction is his sushi. It's been a while since I've drawn Oikawa. It's been a hot minute. Yeah, so because part of me wants the mask to, because I'm thinking of having the mask drape over his eye like this. Then Iwo Izumi would need to come in on this side. Because I feel like if Oikawa is seated, Iwo Izumi is standing, I get the feeling like Oikawa would only come up at around his chest. Oh gosh, I need a significant other. Like, I don't need, like, if anything, I just need a significant other to recreate poses with and make references easier. That's all I need. All I need is somebody to help with references. Like at any time of the night that I need it. Just like, hey babe, come out of bed. I need you to start posing. Dating an artist be like, I actually like did this once in an Among Us AU, and it's like one of my favorite AUs for Oisuga, but I hesitate to get prints of that made because I think Among Us has a pretty strict fan work. They have like a much stricter fan work guideline. So yeah, I don't really see. So it's gonna be like maybe like even just holding the tip of the blade against his bottom lip, and then his hand. And I know I at one point I said that I would have his legs crossed, but I don't think that's gonna be the plan anymore. Not to mention Maki and Matsune are gonna do a pretty good job of keeping them. And then his butt, his hip bones are gonna be somewhere around here. I feel like that is... I feel like I'm gonna have to move the bench down a little bit. I think part of the reason why I'm also struggling with picturing Iwaizumi standing is because of the height of the bench. I may even factor in the bench last, to be completely honest. And then draw the bench around. Because usually whenever I draw benches, I draw it around the sitting figure, not the other way around. Although this, because he... Okay, I'm going to move the bench lower. Move the bench lower. I think that's actually going to be a better sitting angle for Aikawa. And then just have this here. So that's roughly where his legs are going to go. And then they drape downward. And then maybe even move them further up along the bench. And then seated wise, this is where that's going to come up to. Not proportionality wise, this isn't going to make very much sense. I just need to draw in the shapes and figures roughly where they're supposed to go. And so, and this is part of the process. It gets very messy very fast. And then maybe even, and this is what I mean, very messy very fast, because Maki's head is going to go somewhere around here. So just go ahead and draw Maki in a different color. And then he's going to be seated. So maybe even just move him a little, and like I was like. Because Maki's chest is going to be roughly around here. It's going to be, his ass is going to be seated somewhere around there. And then the other thing is too, I need to get them into proportion to each other. Because the thing is that if Matsun's sitting on this side, like let's say his arm is draped right over here. Okay. And then okay, I know I said Matsun. Maybe I should have drawn Matsun and Matsun and Maki first. Because then, because the other thing I could do is just have it so that Matsun is just like literally just sitting here. And then have Maki's legs tangle in with his. And then because I also think like if I have Matsun draped over, he's gonna be much closer to Oikawa. And then yeah, actually I think it will still be possible to have Maki seated in Matsun's lap if we go like this. So pretty much Matsun's gonna be doing something closer to this number. And then Maki's ass is just gonna be there in his lap. And then as for Iwaizumi, I think I am going to have him like lean over a little bit. So arm. Because Oikawa is going to be right-handed, so the knife is in his right hand right now. And so if I want Iwaizumi, because the other thing is too, like, I want Oikawa to be like playing with Matsun's hair. Or the other thing I could do is have him just like playing with the knife. And then again, the other thing I could do too is just like, this is something I used to do with my cousin a lot, because so this is something I used to do with my younger cousin a lot. I'd like tease him and use him as my quote unquote headrest. And pretty much what I'd end up doing is like I'd always just like lean on top of his head. And then the other thing I could do with Iwaizumi, instead of like draping it around, just like have him just kind of, okay, I think that'll work. Like kind of just have his arm rested on Oikawa's head. I don't know if it's like I'm gonna have his like resting on his own head as well. I think we can work with that. I think we can work with that. Like I can either have it so that his hand is draped like that and his shoulder comes here. It's like the one time Iwaizumi can feel tall. Instead of having him draped over his shoulder. And then even like Iwaizumi reaching out to play with his hair. I think we can work with that. The other thing I could do too is just like kind of have more of an interaction with the knife. And maybe even just like have Oikawa holding the knife. And then Iwaizumi holding his hand, just examining the knife, like kind of like bored. It's figuring out what to do with everybody's hands at this point. Maki, I think, will be the easiest one because it's just like he's just idly resting with his hands on his stomach. And you know what? In terms of eye contact, I think I want the knife as the main point of focus. So it's just like if Iwaizumi has a knife, so ooh, I may have to swap over Matsun and Maki, maybe. Well, Matsun's gonna have a direct eye line to them because if I do, okay, I could swap over Iwaizumi to this side, and then he can like Oikawa's hand could be here instead. And then the main point of attention is the knife, and then Maki's head is going to be tilted back. And then Matsun is looking up. So I kind of want the main point of focus to become the knife for all their eyes to follow. And then have Iwaizumi hold on to the knife as if he's examining it, just bored. And then maybe just to keep Oikawa's other hand busy, just have it tangled in Matsun's hair. Because I can't think of any other thing to do with his other hand. Or Oikawa, hand gesture. Okay, I think we have something to work with into a full sketch. My shoulders on my back. Okay, we have something to work with. Let me just delete this piece. And then we'll lower the opacity. So I think, yeah, we're just gonna swap Iwaizumi to the other side. Have him do like the little headrest thing. And we'll move forward from there. Okay. It's been a while since I've drawn something like with this many characters involved. I think the last time I drew a scene was, I guess, the Dragon Au. That one's been a while. I just got another window open. Okay. As a viewfinder. Because one thing that could be going on here is that they're cleaning up. And they're just taking a moment to rest in their hideout. And maybe even have Oikawa's head more tilted. Because again, the point of focus is ultimately going to become the knife. And I think depending on where that knife falls in the picture is going to affect how those eyes fall. Just going to draw in the shapes. I'm not going to worry all that much about features just yet. I just need everybody's bodies like blocked in so I know where to put everyone. And usually this part of the process, I think using stick figures will actually lead to much better. I know we're going from like a very like more shape focus to like more line focus, but I do want to have a skeleton set up for where everybody is supposed to go. Part of the trust the process. Ink. The unfortunate part to this though is that if I want Oikawa's mask is gonna have to go up here. Which is fine, which I can do something a little bit more interesting with his hair from here. And then Iwaizumi is going to be an interesting one because I do need to draw his arm. And his hips are going to be cocked. I'm going to have to adjust everyone's canvas positions. Yeah, because I'm going to have to make some size adjustments a little bit later. I actually do want it. I won't, because he is going to, so his head is going to fall over on his shoulders, because I do want him to kind of just like, yeah, his head's going to be a little bit lower. Because he's going to be crouched down a little bit, so. He's going to be holding Oikawa's hand that has a knife in it. And then I think what I'm going to do is just, I actually will end up doing this. Have him like resting his head on his hand instead of just like letting it rest idly. So kind of just like bring further emphasis to just like he's re-examining that knife a little bit bored. Because while I do want to incorporate like some of like aspects from DBD, I still want this to feel like very much it's a Sage 04. And then the thing to remember is that if he's going to be standing like this, his weight, it's a straight down line to his right foot. So one of the things to remember is that when you're dealing with a shift of weight, your weight is going to have to, so pretty much your center of gravity is going to have to shift depending on how you're positioning yourself. So whenever you have kind of like a shift, so yeah, that leg is not going to be straight. It's going to be a little bit bent. And then even if I have, well, no. For reference, I'm literally standing and I'm like leaning against the counter to try and like just pretend that is the countertop is Oikawa's head. So right, like I'm literally trying to figure out a position where, yeah, so one of the things to remember when you're dealing with center of gravity is that your head and one of your feet need to be aligned in order for you to kind of have like a proper center of gravity, that you are balanced and steady. So the foot that is going to be leaning in, so the inside foot is going to be the one that's bent, and then the outer one is the one that's going to be straight. And so if you're yes, I am literally putting myself in the position. So this is a very, like, this isn't the most comfortable position to be in. So maybe even if I have like, but it doesn't like, literally it doesn't feel like it would be very easy to have his head also resting. So I feel like, yeah, his head resting on his hand would make more sense. Examining the blade while holding Oikawa's hand. And then it would be the inside leg that's kind of like partially bent to kind of like better get into that height. And then, yeah, it's going to be more of, so his body is going to be forming this line with like, I need to do this in front of a mirror, but Essentially, this leg is going to be slightly bent so that he can comfortably get into height. This is the one that's going to be extended. And when his head is here, he is going to be yeah, because I'm pretty sure seated Oikawa would be around his chest. Okay. So I think I'm gonna end stream here. Because I do need to start getting ready for bed, and I did tell myself I would be stricter with myself when it came to bedtime, especially now that I'm not on sticker crunch. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave the chat, or sorry, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream right here. And yeah, we're gonna see how this comes together, because the Stage 04 Legion is actually an idea I've had for a very long time that I've just never gotten around to doing it. And like, what better time than now that I don't really have any other ideas of something that I want to work on, and this has been like popping up in my head recently. So we'll see. You know what would help is if I actually like figured out where his feet land here, so I can better determine this height. Okay, tangent. That was a tangent. But I did tell myself that I was going to be better with myself in terms of getting rest. So I'm going to go ahead and stream right here. And thank you everyone for joining me today. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. And have a good night.